Gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize
Thank you,
Ms.
Mr.
Craig,
Crabtree.
the gentlewoman from Minnesota, for 5 minutes of questions.
Well, thank you so much, Chairman Himes and Ranking Member Steele, for this focus on infrastructure's role in inclusive growth across our country and, of course, in the great state of Minnesota. Thank you so much to our witnesses for your excellent testimony here this afternoon. You know, Minnesota's 2nd Congressional District, it's made up of suburbs, of exurbs, and lots of rural areas. In fact, my role on this committee is really to focus on how do we reduce economic disparity and create growth in rural communities across our country, because I think that is absolutely vital that we don't leave out our rural communities in this discussion. That's why I was very proud to support the bipartisan infrastructure law, which will make transformative investments in highways and roads and bridges and waterways across our nation. In fact, I'm proud to be a member of Congress who represents those Mississippi River and Minnesota River towns in the 2nd District of Minnesota. Just as important, it will provide $65 billion to expand access to broadband across our country. As Michelle shared in the video that we saw earlier today, broadband access is just critical to places like rural Welch, Minnesota, and so many communities like it across America. We know that rural communities are often the last ones to receive high-speed internet. That's why I've introduced legislation on accurate broadband mapping. And because to make sure those dollars are spent effectively and that they go as far as possible in fostering inclusive economic growth, we need to know exactly which areas should be first in line for broadband expansion projects. With that, I want to start with Dr. Lee for my first question. Dr. Lee, what policy choices would you recommend to this committee and this Congress as we continue to prioritize expanding broadband access to currently and underserved rural areas? And do you think that the $65 billion investment included in the bipartisan infrastructure bill is enough?
Whoa. Well, Representative Craig, I thank you for asking me that question because rural is near and dear to my heart. And the state of Minnesota has actually done a lot to actually push some of these rural development models as well as regional development models. What I would say first is obviously the maps are very important. So I would continue that push towards accurate and sufficient maps. I would also say that we really need to look at how we examine infrastructure in rural areas. Right now in the bill, we have a tendency to preference one technology over another. And in my experiences as part of my book to rural communities, take, for example, the tire shop owner in Garrett County, Maryland, who used television white space, a Microsoft broadband initiative. He was able to get online to just actually do the queries that he needed for his supplies. Or the person in the video where getting on Zoom was hard because probably she's waiting for some provider to come in and to give service. We need to have hybrid approaches, and we need to be able to say that we cannot wholesale infrastructure when it comes to rural, and we have to be creative about that. I would also say one thing where we can bolster some of the investment, because the money is going to run out. It is the largest down payment that we have, but it's not guaranteed to cover all of America. We actually need double that to do that. With regards to how we can extend this, we need more interagency support. There are programs right now, social services programs held at HHS, educational programs, that actually can come to the table and help us not to just bolster access, but to bolster decision-making and problem solving. How do we get those agencies support, Congresswoman, to be able to put on top of the money that we have better treatment programs, better workforce development programs that rely upon broadband as a conduit? So I hope that helps, but I think we're getting close, but we actually need to be much more creative to extend the shelf life of that money.
Thank you so much for that answer, Dr. Lee. I know that accessibility and affordability are very different issues. I'm going to skip my follow-up question to you because I've become known in this select committee for a lightning round, and that involves all of you. So before my time expires, I'd like to do a quick lightning round. In one sentence, what should this committee and Congress be monitoring most closely during the implementation of the bipartisan infrastructure law to make sure that an impact in reducing economic disparity in America actually occurs? I'm going to start with Mr. Wade.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Very simple, 5 words: inclusive impact
and minority business participation.
Thank you. Dr. Martine?
Monitor what states fund and don't fund.
Thank you. Commissioner Higgins?
Get funds flowing to local governments quickly and cut the red tape if you can.
Mr. Crabtree?
Do something to get rid of this, well, not necessarily get rid of it, but the overwhelming permitting process when it comes to construction projects.
And Dr. Lee?
Data. I'll leave it there. We need data.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for your patience, and I yield back.